Give it a minute. All right. Give it a few minutes for people to come in. Figured we'd try it this way since we've been having so many problems with connectivity and the disaster that is the X connectivity for lives. See if I could pull this up here so I can view the chat. All right, I'm giving it a couple of minutes. Hope this posted. Okay. I'm just giving it a couple of minutes. See if all right. I want to get a piece of paper and write down if people want to talk about anything interesting here. I don't know how to see how many people are in on this broadcast like I've been able to do on the other one through X. So that's a little bit, I'm curious. Is there any way, does anyone know how to see that? Because I want to give it a few minutes for people to come in because I know we haven't done YouTube in a while. I see people are coming on in. I just don't know where to see the total number. Maybe I'm not able to, maybe I only can see that on the actual device. Let me take a quick look. Oh yeah, all right, I see it. Interesting. All right, maybe I, all right, I wasn't planning on doing it this way, but I guess I will. All right, so the picture quality, unfortunately, isn't as good with the front camera, but I can at least see who's in here and what's going on. So I guess we'll have to do it that way. It's all right. All right, let's see. Let me just level this up here. What does this do? Oh. Oh, they have a beauty mode here? All right, no thanks. All right, so if you come in late, this will be rebroadcasted. Obviously, you can play it on here. I don't think everyone kind of caught on that I'm doing it on YouTube here today. Because we usually just do it right on X, right? But I'm so tired of that thing cutting out. It's been so annoying. Palantir, yeah, that's some move. I guess that's been acting well, though. We've generally been positive on that name, too. Taiwan Semi. Shorted it today around 198. All right, we'll talk about that. Someone, December 200 ITM puts. December 200. Anything else anyone wants to talk about? I don't know that the word is getting out around this, because usually we have a couple hundred people in these chats, and I'm not seeing that many here. But at least this won't cut out. Let me just put this out again. Mid-broadcast, right? I'll give it a minute. If more people don't come in, I guess they'll just catch the rebroadcast. But that's fine. By the way, if you're watching, do me a favor. If you can go on Twitter and like and retweet the post with this feed, so that people see it, more people see it. Twitter algo, or whatever, the X algo, has just been a complete crusher lately. In the money, let's see. I mean, in the money for Taiwan semi-puts. Oh, all right. Yeah, I was going to look it up. All right, so should we start with those? We'll start with those, why not, right? You know what, let's actually start off with futures, because I already have them on my screen. So a couple of things to note. And by the way, if you come in late to this or you want to rewatch it, it'll be up on YouTube. And I guess YouTube is a more stable connection these days than the X situation. So futures, look, I'm watching this 5801 area. That zone needs to hold. Really, it's 5785 to 5801-ish, but I generally like to see when 5800, big 100-point numbers are cleared. And if that can hold, we probably can rally at least to the mid 5800, so 58, 53 quarter-ish. Qs are in that big zone we had talked about, the 20,263.75 to 20,381.75. And that had been support. Now we're chopping around in there maybe as resistance. So I'll be curious to see if that can clear. If not, stay frosty. Don't let it get below the 20,263.75 on you. VWAP is almost there, not quite. It's currently 20,254, let's just say 55, because 82 isn't a thing. So that zone will need to definitely clear and support. As far as SPY goes, my big concern has been the potential for a professional gap that we saw on Halloween. And that today is sort of being tested, because we are trading into the gap a little. The bulls will need to keep it above 575.63. Anything below there, I think, is a little iffy. In the last video, we discussed a little bit of a look below and fail of the 1031 candle with yesterday's range. So I had said it should, quote unquote, rotate back to the higher end of the range, and it did exactly that. So I love that the market is trading very technically and predictably. I don't like when things happen that shouldn't happen. That always is what gets me on guard. So I generally think here, if you took that trade, you probably should be booking some of those gains. The next big stops for me on the upside would be 578.85, which is the 20 MA. We're right on the 10 MA here, so that's also, I think, what stalled it here at 576.39. And then, of course, the gap fill at 580.01, and then we'd see. For me, too much of a pullback today, that's really subjective. I think I'm going to look intra-candle, because generally I would say VWAP, which is 574.61, but I'm looking intra-candle, and we had this little pullback on the 1335 bar. I'm on the 5-minute, and I think if that low were violated at the 574.60, that could be a stop and or trigger for a short, particularly if we come from a lower high, and we're obviously would be, because we're not clearing the all-time or the intraday high here at 576.43. As far as Qs go, the intraday swing bounce, I guess, that we just saw, also apples to apples 1335 candle would be 490.86. With regard to that daily candle, let me pull that up. Also right into the teeth of the resistance here at the 20 MA at 492.60. That area needs to clear. If we can, we probably get the gap fill to 496.38. But I've got to think they're going to still want to sell 500, right? That's been the trigger here. And we had talked about selling 500 because why not? With regard to VIX, I'm not convinced here that the volatility is fully over, but I'm not convinced that it's coming because they weren't able to clear 2308 to 2376. If that area can clear, I do think that the next leg lower in the correction starts. But we were cautious, waiting to see that clear in order to be convinced that we were going to see another leg of the correction, and that has not taken place. So that is a feather in the cap for the bulls. I'd feel better on the bull case if they can get it back below 19.36. That area, 18.84 to 19.36. The 18.84 is the 50 MA, and the reason I cite that is because on 1018, that was the support. Let's talk Palantir. So big move up today. Very impressive, big bullish type candle. We're actually over the high post-IPO at 45. So it's technically in clear air. If you haven't booked some gains, though, I'd probably do so here. It's moved quite a bit pretty fast. I would like to, trim some gains. If there's pullbacks, I don't know when that's going to take place, but the 200 MA was the big key support on 8.5. It's a country mile away here at 27.77. So, yeah, we're a long way from Geneva. A little inside joke there. If you want to use the 49.78 VWAP as a stop, that's fine. My guess, though, is that this is going to hang up here for a few days. But given that we've seen these big earnings pops and then not be able to hold, I'd be a little bit cautious. I would definitely use the move today to at least trim some, because why give it back over a multi-day pullback like we've seen in stocks like Google, like we've even seen to some degree in Taiwan Semi, Netflix a little bit, although that's been much stronger. Google, speaking of Google, it's right on that key neckline here. It's really got to hold this 169s. As long as that holds, I do think it could go higher. If it fails, it probably comes down to the 164.23-ish area. But generally here, Google had a good quarter. I don't mind buying the dip. I just don't love that it gave back so much, but is acting okay. Apple still holding where it needs to, around those 220s. I'd feel better over the 100 MA here at 223.67, and then we probably could bounce to the 50 MA at 226.95. I think if we start losing the 220 area, it probably sees a little bit larger of a pullback. But so far, it seems okay. Microsoft, I generally we're bullish on the company, but the pattern just looks terrible. You have these both left and right shoulder have double tap head and shoulders patterns. You have a trend break. It hasn't filled up the pennant here. It should, quote unquote, already be at the 400 area, and it's not. So that's generally, I guess, bullish, but the market hasn't pulled back. So if you want to do like a 400 by 385 1/2 put ratio near dated, and you could get that on for a small net credit, I'd be good with that. I'd have to see if that can fill, but you get my sentiment here. With regard to Netflix, I know it's going to sound crazy, but as long as 736 can hold, it's okay. We've revised that, though, and I'd be careful now below the 10 MA. It shouldn't do that at 755.12. It is testing above trend. My guess is Netflix will make a run to new highs, but the yellow channel high is really just above the old reference high that we saw post-earnings on the 1021 candle, and we'd probably be up around 776s. So probably is still a good opportunity to trim into, but I wouldn't be surprised to see if Netflix got going, if the market were able to really take off here. Post-election and maybe post-Fed. Tesla, up nicely. We've been waiting for that down auction to end post-earnings. That happened today, so if you want to use yesterday's high at 248.90, anything above there to me is still bullish. Intra-candle gets a little more iffy, but it should, quote-unquote, push higher. Taiwan Semi. So you bought 200 MA puts. I'm not so sure I love that play here. I'd feel better below low of day here at 193.49 and back below the 20 MA. But to me, you're starting to make some higher lows and slightly higher highs. If you want to make that into a spread, maybe sell the 180 puts, that's down closer to the 50 MA, or maybe 175, make it some type of a spread just in case it starts running. That would make a little more sense to me. I'm not so keen on owning naked premium. Although with VIX low here, I don't mind it, but I always prefer spreads. NVIDIA also kind of acting well. It's not back up over the 140.76 area, which is what really does need to clear for still higher prices. We've seen it play a little footsie above there, but generally not clearing. As long as it's above 137.61, which was the 1031 dump candle, and that's roughly the 20 MA, I think it's still okay. Post-election, I think the market is discounting a Trump win at this point, based on all the metrics that I'm looking at, being the DJT. Oil hasn't really been catching too much of a bid lately, which you would think would be the case with a Harris win, right? Because they would do more regulations and less permitting and exploration. I'm looking at TLT. I've been talking about maybe doing some type of a mean reversion play, playing for a move back up to the 95s, 96s, but it hasn't really materialized in any major way. This might be waiting for post-Fed, but I think if it starts losing 91.47, it's possible we have a revisit of the 90s and maybe the 88.68 area. On the upside, I do think those 94s, 95s, 96s zone, more specifically 94.84 to 95.02, will likely be some resistance. What else did I want to look at? Is there anything else anyone wanted to discuss here? Review. Yeah, I mean, Tesla, I guess it's become a bit of a Trump victory play. It's a little counterintuitive, though, right? Because Trump wants to end the EV mandates, but Tesla is really the only profitable EV maker. So if those mandates and those subsidies go away, that crushes their competition. I mean, the American autos will just take a header, the Fords, the GMs. I mean, they make, in my view, a bit of a inferior product anyway, and then you're really just competing with the Chinese competitors at that point. So that's sort of my thinking there. Let's take a look at the dollar. The dollar is kind of pulling back here. I guess that's going to have to deal with more spending. I really don't get too concerned about the dollar if it's below 103.999. I'd start freaking the F out if it got over 104.636 to 1.05. Then I'd start thinking the market would pay more attention. But it did have quite a bounce. My guess is if there's some type of a pullback, the 100 MA may support at 103.138, but I'm looking more for a 50 MA for a buy the dip, 102.246. I don't know if we're going to get down there, but that would be my little area that I'd be into. As far as we don't really talk about DJT all that often, but it did stall the other day on the 61.8 of the range at 53.55. It is a little bit above the 38.2 here, so it really does need to hold 37.58. I would be a little worried of a sell the news opportunity there, but they already kind of did sell it a little bit. Anyhow, I got to cut the broadcast a little bit short today because I have another call I have to hop on. So if you missed this, you can rewatch it. I'll try and trim out the beginning if possible. I think there's an edit function on that, but I'm hopefully can just do this on YouTube from now on. The problem I have with X is that it just keeps crapping out on me, right? That's super annoying to do. But I think this broadcast was pretty good. I'm curious to take a look at the video quality and sound quality, but please feel free to like and retweet this. It helps with the algo. So if you didn't like this video, if you could just click that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do, because I'm going to be doing more of these broadcasts regularly. Cheers.